Hello, my name is Henry Keane. This is News Pulse at UATV. Welcome to the Daily Show. Today in the episode, the Kremlin takedown Ukrainian drones, parade over Moscow as Victory Day parade is scaled back. Zelensky arrives in Armenia, a land that Russia considered absolutely dependent on the Kremlin for a Security Forum summit, marking a sharp turn towards Armenian independence from Russian influence and a slap into Putin's face, of course. Turkey announces a new trade policy cutting trade with Russia severely. What does it mean for Russia? Learn in our story. Overnight drones targeted the Russian capital, Moscow, striking a high-rise building just 6 kilometers from the Kremlin, the city's central Red Square, and less than 3 kilometers from the Russian Defense Ministry building. The Mosfilm Tower is located in an elite neighborhood within the city. Russia has previously reported multiple drone strikes against Moscow, saying the capital is well defended against any aerial threats. But talking about security doesn't mean one. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin and local Telegram channels were forced to report the strike at approximately 2 a.m. and no casualties were reported. Russian monitoring channels identified the craft as FP1 attack drones, marking a significant return of Ukrainian UAVs to the very heart of Moscow in just 5 days before a sacred victory parade. Well, I guess that all means that Volodymyr Zelensky has not yet allowed any parades in Moscow, at least without Ukrainian drones heavily involved in the event. Also, Ukraine has not got any clear articulated peace proposals whatsoever from Putin.
But this is absurd. I will in no way persuade President Zelensky to agree to such proposals. If there were a possibility of a truce and a cessation of bloodshed not for a few dozen hours, just because it is so convenient for Putin, but as an introduction to serious peace negotiations, then, of course, Poland would completely support this.
The April results of the Ukrainian army handing their heads to the enemy, 25 units of super expensive Russian anti-aircraft missile systems and 13 units of radar and electronic warfare systems are completely destroyed. During 1 month, the Madyar birds UAV units under Robert Brovdy's command destroyed in total 38 enemy air defense units, and from May 1 to 2nd alone, another 4 units, including Panzer II and P-18 radars. In total, 25 air defense systems and 13 radars were completely demolished in April, with the total cost of this equipment being over $1 billion. According to reports, operations are being conducted in a deep prayer, as Madyar says the consistent and regular destruction of Russian air defense systems at the operational level, in particular, opens corridors for increasing deep damage to the Kremlin's military-industrial complex in general. Volodymyr Zelensky announced hits on Russia's shadow fleet in Novorossiysk and Primorsk, a direct quote of the president of Ukraine. Our soldiers continue to apply sanctions against the Russian shadow oil fleet. They hit 2 such vessels in the waters of the port of Novorossiysk. These tankers were actively used to transport oil. Now they are not. I extend my sincere gratitude to the Chief of the General Staff, Andriy Ignatov, for leading the operation, and to the counterintelligence officers of the Security Service of Ukraine and to our Ukrainian Navy for the consistent work and amazing results. Ukrainian long-range capabilities will be comprehensively developed at sea, in the sky, and on land. Glory to Ukraine. A missile ship Karakurt and the oil terminal that were located approximately 1,000 kilometers from the northern border of Ukraine were both targeted by Ukrainian drones. The missile ship was equipped with 8 caliber cruise missiles with a range of up to 2,000 kilometers. The ship was also equipped with the sea-based Panzer-M air defense missile system, and it was exactly this ship that was supposed to secure the infrastructure and the oil refineries from Ukrainian drone attacks, but something traditionally went wrong for the Kremlin. President Zelensky has come to Armenia for the European Political Community Summit. It is seen as a significant geopolitical blow to Russian influence in the region and to Putin personally. Here are the key aspects of why. A demonstrative break from the Russian Federation, Armenia, traditionally considered a key Russian ally in the South Caucasus, is demonstrating an active rapprochement with Europe and Ukraine. Zelensky participation. The arrival of the Ukrainian leader in Yerevan, a city Moscow considers part of its sphere of influence, is a symbolic gesture that highlights the obvious decline of Russian power. The European Vector, the European Political Community Summit, aims to strengthen partnerships with European nations, which contradicts the interests of the Kremlin as it seeks to isolate Ukraine and maintain its influence across the post-Soviet space.
And so many countries are represented here today. It matters that Armenia stands here with all Europeans. And for the first time in 24 years, by the way, a visit by the President of Ukraine. This means a lot. And it shows the scale of our unity, all those who value life. And I agree with Antonio. Absolutely, I'm glad Mark Carney is with us, and it's time to turn our shared values with Canada into more joint opportunities for Canada and Europe.
It was the 2023 war between Armenia and neighboring Azerbaijan became a turning point. At that time, Azerbaijan launched a lightning-fast military operation to complete the siege of Nagorno-Karabakh, displacing over 100,000 ethnic Armenians. Russia, in turn, which had peacekeepers on the ground, remained sidelined. Previously, Azerbaijan's incursions into Armenian territory also went unanswered by the Russia-led Collective Security Treaty Organization. Putin watches Armenia's warming relations with the EU with the undisguised irritation, of course, as he is losing allies one after another. Ankara is reducing imports from Russia. Turkey's Minister of Trade reported that billions of dollars are at stake in a suicidal effort to keep its economy afloat. Moscow is forced selling of its gold reserves. According to the Ukrainian intelligence, in the first quarter of 2026, the Russian central bank sold already nearly 22 tons of gold more. In the following story for you.
Russian goods supplies to Turkey fell by almost a quarter in the first 4 months of 2026 compared to the same period in 2025. This is the largest drop among all of Ankara's trading partners, according to Turkey's Minister of Trade. The decline in bilateral trade is not a new trend. According to the Turkish Statistical Institute, the decrease has been recorded for the third consecutive year.
Looking at imports, in January to April, among the countries from which imports have decreased the most, Russia is in first place, $3.5 billion.
The aggressor country's budget is also steadily shrinking. After the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Kremlin put the economy on a war footing, increasing military-industrial complex spending and significantly cutting investment in the civilian sector. However, as CNN notes, this is not producing the desired effect. One of the key sources of federal budget revenue, oil exports, remains under pressure from Western restrictions. In addition, constant attacks by the defense forces of Ukraine on Russian oil refineries supplying the Russian army are significantly affecting refining volumes. As a result, according to the Moscow Times, fuel production has fallen to a 17-year low, and the Kremlin has decided to switch to manual management of the industry. 11 major oil companies, including Rosneft, Gazprom Neft, Lukoil, and Surgutneftegas, are preparing an agreement with the Ministry of Energy to stabilize the domestic petroleum products market.
We are talking about the creation of a management scheme for the industry practically in emergency conditions. Is this good or bad? In the short term, it may have some positive effect, but this is not a normal situation in the economy. As practice shows, such measures can be applied, but only for a very limited period of time.
President Volodymyr Zelensky reported that due to long-range sanctions by the defense forces of Ukraine, Moscow has lost at least $7 billion since the beginning of 2026. This, the Ukrainian leader noted, is according to the most conservative estimates.
Based on the results from April, our long-range sanctions have reached a new level across 3 components, reducing Russia's oil revenues, as well as the range and intensity of sanctions. It is important that not only is the target itself reached, as defined by the operational objective, but that the downtime of the target is increased or, at the very least, its operations are significantly reduced. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on X.
The economy is cooling supposedly to support some macroeconomic stability, stated Putin's press secretary Peskov. He added that the government is working on solutions that should somehow change the negative trend. In practice, however, Russia is simply trying to cover the budget deficit by selling off reserves. According to the Foreign Intelligence Service, in the first quarter of 2026, the central bank significantly reduced its gold reserves. Gold has essentially become the last resort. In Moscow, they claim they are selling it only because of high prices.
Я, естественно, скептически отношусь к этим отговоркам.
Naturally, I am skeptical about these excuses. In reality, the fact that they have sold 22 tons of gold since the beginning of the year means that over the course of the year, we will see the gold reserves shrink by dozens of tons. This is a consequence of the need to keep the financial system balanced because they are trying to print rubles at the same time, that is, carry out emission. And the money supply is naturally growing, while at the same time laying down this anti-inflationary straw.
The main source of financing for the Russian economy is the savings of Russian citizens, admitted Central Bank Governor Elvira Nabiullina. She explained that sanctions against Russia have closed Western capital markets to companies of the aggressor country. Therefore, the only option left is to rely on domestic reserves. Meanwhile, Russian Finance Minister Anton Siluanov urged Russians to invest in the Russian economy instead of keeping money under the mattress. Reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
US President Donald Trump personally confirmed 5,000 American troops will be leaving Germany. The decision has raised concerns even among Republicans who are calling for the troops not to be withdrawn or at least to be redeployed to the Middle East instead. But the Pentagon, where many officials were utterly shocked by the decision, Trump's plan has been confirmed. And we at UATV call to the collective power and wisdom of you, our dear viewers. Call to action, yes. What we'd like to ask you is a question. Please do not shy out to comment in the section below. The question is Trump's decision an invitation for Putin to attack Europe? Please share your thoughts. We very much appreciate you. Thank you. Well, that seems to be it for today. My name is Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for investing your time and helping Ukraine. We appreciate that a lot. I would also like to ask you to comment, like, and subscribe to our channel. Whatever comes next, tomorrow UATV will be there to keep you posted on that in Ukrainian perspective. Stay safe and tuned for more. Goodbye.